he usually closed that little concert with his country rock band with Ghost Riders in the Sky. If you've ever been to Arizona and spent any time down there, you've heard Ghost Riders in the Sky. His uncle, Stan Jones, is actually the man who wrote Ghost Riders in the Sky. Keeter has opened for Doc Watson and Emmy Lewis, among other people. Michael Ward worked for the National Park Service in Death Valley, where Stan Jones hung out and actually wrote Ghost Riders in the Sky. And he has been with the National Park Service in Tucson, Arizona, and has actually written a biography about Stan Jones. Please welcome Keeter and Michael.
Be okay with that setup?
Yeah, let's get kind of squared away here.
I'll let Keeter get set up. I think can everybody hear me? Yeah. I can carry pretty well. It's a great honor to be here. We really appreciate the invitation from Mark. And I just say right off the bat, I'm a desert guy, and I'm kind of like still in shock from all this water and all these trees. But Astoria is a wonderful town. It's really an honor to be here. When I delved into the story of Stan Jones, I grew up playing six-string guitar, and tenor guitars were not on my radar screen. And I started researching Stan's life and found out that he played a four-string tenor guitar. In fact, it's great.
Sorry.
What was the guy who just played? We had Jimmy Dodd's guitar? Yeah.
Sylvester.
Yeah, Eric. Stan was actually on the Spin and Marty show, which was serialized on the Mickey Mouse Club. So I'm not surprised that he and Jimmy Dodd played guitars together. And Stan was also a very good friend of Dobie Carey's. And Dobie Carey was an actor who ended up working for Walt Disney, and it was through Dobie's intervention that Stan got the job for the Spin and Marty show. And the only footage I've been able to find of Stan playing his tenor guitar in the 50s is from those old Spin and Marty episodes, which you can find on this Disney DVD. And then he had one movie for Disney where he played tenor guitar in the 10 Who Dared. But Stan was known primarily, of course, for writing Ghost Riders in the Sky, which he wrote in Death Valley when he was a Park Service Ranger in the 1940s. And his tenor guitar was a gift from his wife Olive. His first Park Service job was in Mount Rainier. 1945, he started working with the Park Service. And it was during the wartime, and there was no money. Stan Olive didn't have a car, they didn't have much money. And I wish I knew more about Stan's history as a guitar player. He says that he grew up in Douglas, Arizona, and he has said that he learned to play guitar from cowboys out on the ranch out east of Douglas, where he was introduced to the idea of the Ghost Riders by an old cowboy. But you have to take everything that Stan says with a grain of salt. He liked to make things up. And so I'm guessing that he started playing the tenor guitar when his wife bought him a Martin. It was probably very inexpensive. And that's the guitar that he wrote over 200 songs on. He published many songs, wrote a lot of great songs, which of course Keeter will play a few. I'll talk more about Ghost Riders when we do the official induction into the Hall of Fame. But many of the songs that Stan wrote, his favorite songs are the ones that he was in Death Valley. It was probably the happiest time of his life. He had a kind of a rough time during the Depression. He had a couple of marriages that were failed, kids, and he left a kind of a trail of a lot of broken hearts and really had trouble finding his feet. He met Olive in 1943 when he was in Bend working for the Red Cross, and Olive was a school teacher, and they were married in 1944. And he really, at that point, he finally settled down. He was 30 years old, and from then he had found the person that really kind of gave him stability, and she encouraged his creative instincts. And I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that gift of the guitar really set Stan off on his songwriting career. And he wrote Ghost Riders in Death Valley, Cowpoke, which a song that Keeter will do, probably inspired by an old cowboy he knew down in Douglas. The Burro Lullaby is another wonderful song that Stan always said to the end of his life that it was his favorite. He was supposed to shoot burros as a ranger in Death Valley, but he loved burros because that was the way he got out to the ranches when he was a kid. So it was kind of a protest song, so he wrote the Burro Lullabies. It's a lovely song. Keeter will sing that also. he kept composing songs. He never had much of a movie career. They thought it was going to be another Roy Rogers or Gene Autry, but he just wasn't a very good actor. And the tenor guitar, to be honest, just didn't carry that well. And after Ghost Riders got so huge, he was forced to quit his Park Service job, and he went on tour. And the reviews were just kind of awful. One guy said he should go back to his ranger station because he'd be on a stage with just a tenor guitar. And his good friend Johnny Western told me that, it was like a guy sitting around the campfire, just singing. So he didn't really project well. So he did his career as a big actor and singer didn't really pan out. But he was a great songwriter. He wrote a lot of really fabulous songs.
Tell him how he got to the place where he had the opportunity to act in movies through John Force.
Yeah, John Ford came to Death Valley when Stan was a ranger there in 1948 in the spring. And that kind of opened the door for Stan. After Ghost Riders became huge, he moved to LA. And Dobie Carey was in that film also, Three Godfathers, which was being filmed in Death Valley. And Stan was in Los Angeles, and Dobie said, let's go over to see John Ford. And Ford immediately said, I need songs for my next movie, which is Wagon Master. So Stan wrote songs for Wagon Master, Rio Grande, and the theme song for The Searchers, which is probably renowned as John Ford's greatest Western, greatest movie, one of the greatest Westerns of all time. Stan wrote the theme song for that, and that's another song that Keeter wrote. It's very biographical for Stan. His best songs really reflected his experience, his life experience, and The Searchers and Ghost Riders in the Sky, Burl Lullaby Cowpoke, all really reflect Stan's time as finding his way as a human being through his very unusual and really lucky life. It's an amazing story. I'll be available after my book here. Keeter has some CDs. I'll be glad to sell you a book and sign it. But it's a fabulous story. And when I started, it was just a paper for a history conference in Death Valley where I live. And I found out there was essentially nothing written about Stan. So you are looking at the world's greatest expert, Stan Jones. And it's goofy that I got here. I had no idea. I interviewed Stan. Stan died in 1963. His widow Olive, who's still alive, bless her heart, spoke with me in 2006. And she talked about their lives in Death Valley together. And she referred to him. She's a very dear woman. She kept calling Stan my husband, my husband. And it's a really great story, and I'm very proud to be able to tell it. And I'm proud that I hooked up with this guy. I heard it on the radio in Tucson one day. I heard a great version of Ghost Riders, and a DJ came on and said, that was Keeter Stuart. This is back in 2007, I believe.
With Trigger's Revenge.
With Trigger's Revenge, that's right, yeah. And I said, a nephew of Stan Jones. I thought, well, I'm going to call it. I Googled him. There's only one Keeter on the planet, apparently. And we've become good friends. We've done our little stick together about Stan for a long time, and it's still a great joy. And it's my pleasure to turn it over to Keeter Stuart.
Thank you, Mike.
I just want to say one thing. What's kind of interesting about this whole gathering, Michael emailed me about 8 months ago and said, I just wrote this book and maybe you ought to think about inducting Stan Jones into the Tenor Guitar Hall of Fame. I knew he wrote Ghost Riders in the Sky, but nobody knew that he played a tenor guitar until this book, and there's pictures of him. Because they mentioned he played guitar, but never tenor guitar. And I bought this book, and I got to tell you, it's a fast read, it's fascinating. His whole story is, it's amazing, the luck of like being in one place. I mean, you have a rare opportunity to buy this book from the guy who wrote it. And these guys are here just because of something bizarre in the cosmic universe.
Thanks, it's great to be here. Probably the more observant of you at this point noticed that this is a 6-string guitar. It is not a tenor guitar. I got a hold of a tenor guitar that a buddy of mine he bought the whole set. Martin put out like 35 or 36 sets of the Kingston Trio set. There was a tenor guitar, Nick Reynolds played, and then there was, well, it wasn't one that he played, but it was a tenor guitar, a D28, and a banjo. So he bought the whole set a few years back. So he allowed me to mess around a little bit, but I didn't think I was proficient enough on it to bring it out here and play. So I called Mark, or emailed him a couple days ago and said, look, you know, our 6 strings band, can I play my 6 string? And he said no. He said, great, just bring whatever. So thanks for allowing me to play the 6 string on a little. But you know, I'm really inspired to get one, especially after tonight. And I think I probably owe it to my Uncle Stan's legacy to at least give it a shot. So, but here's a song of his. It's called "The Lilies Grow High." It's a cowboy tune. But I'm only playing 4 strings right now. Boots and Stetson, 6 guns and the lilies grow high. They grow for a man with a gun-sling in hand, who before his time will die. Yeah, they grow in the trail that he's traveled. It's a trail well spattered with lead. Oh, they weep o'er the graves of the many men. They weep o'er the men now dead. And he rides along lonely, no friends, but only the lilies growing high. And all men seem to fear him, not one will go near him, and he knows the reason why. For his name and his fame spread before him, just like a carpet of death, and he knows one day he'll be slow on the draw, and then for him a lily will grow. A woman might love him, though she knows that soon above him the lily's growing high. And then like a lily she'll bow down her head, bow down her poor head and cry. And on some boot hill they will lay him, and a headboard will sway in the wind. Oh, the lilies will nod and gently weep for another gunman's end. Boots and Stetsons, 6 guns and the lilies grow high. Boots and Stetsons, 6 guns and the lilies grow high. Boots and Stetson, 6 guns, the lilies grow high. Thanks. That's fun. Song about a hanging tree. There's a tree that's growing on the hillside with a limb for all the boys to see, and the wind a sighing through its branches says, leave another man's belongings be. So pass a jug and we'll drink once more to the men wherever they may be, who swung in the wind on a rope from a limb of a cottonwood tree. Oh, 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 oh. There were men caught a thieving horses, heaven rest their souls from up above. Some stole charms from a woman's arms, devil take the man who steals love. So pass a jug and we'll drink once more to the men wherever they may be, who swung in the wind on a rope from a limb of a cottonwood tree. Whoa, oh, when that tree was dying on the hillside, all the boys rode up there through the draw. Wind a sighing through its branches said, oh, never, never laugh at the law. And pass a jug and we'll drink once more to the men wherever they may be, who swung in the wind on a rope from a limb of a cottonwood tree. I said pass a jug and we'll drink once more to the men wherever they may be, who swung in the wind on a rope from a limb of a cottonwood tree. Oh, 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 oh. Here's a song that Mike was referring to. This is called the Burro Lullaby. And this song kind of unfolded just the way it's kind of told. He was working in Death Valley and was driving home one night and stopped off at dusk and pulled over and sat down and had a cigarette. Smoked a cigarette, and he was looking out over the valley, and you could hear this little clip-clopping behind him. He turned around and these 4 burros just came up over the hill one at a time as the moon was rising, and the song came out of that. And as Mike said, he was very close to burros, because as a boy growing up in Douglas, he and his buddies used to round up the burros that the Mexican woodcutters would turn loose once they brought their loads up from Mexico and sold them. And they would just go, running around out in the scrub. So when he was told that he was supposed to shoot him, he wouldn't do it. He almost lost his job over it. So this is called the Burro Lullaby. One little burro on a hill with evening coming on. two little burros on a hill. Their shadows are almost gone. And three little burros on a hill beneath that purple sky. Four little burros on a hill, and they sang this lullaby as the moon sails by tonight in the sky and shines on our very long years. And the coyotes wail in the barren vale, and the jackrabbit, he sheds big tears. Then we won't worry or lose our sleep, for way beyond the starry deep, God is watching the whole night through, or four little burros, and even you. One little burro, two little burros, three little burros, and four little burros. Sleep, sleep. Now let's see here. Here's a theme song from the movie The Searchers. I slowed it down a little bit for my own purposes. What makes a man to wander? And what makes a man to roam? What makes a man leave his bed and board and turn his back on home? And ride away, just ride away, ride away. Well, a man is gonna search for his fortune, yeah, for silver and a little gold. Well, the silver, he finds it in his hair. His weary heart grows cold. So ride away, ride away, just ride away. Well, me, I'm gonna go right on searching for where there ain't no hate, for that tender love that I've been dreaming of before it gets too late. Right away, right away, right away, right away, right away. When Stan was a boy down in Douglas, he, like I said, he used to ride out east of town and carouse around. He ran into an old guy named Cap Watts, and it's in the book. It's in the book. Cap was one of the reasons that he ended up writing Ghost Riders, because there was a story that Mike can tell you about a little later on before we actually get to that song. But this is a song that he wrote, I think, that was inspired by not only Cap, but also his own experience in Death Valley in his early days. He did a little rodeoing and some other stuff. And this song called Cowpoke. It's one of my favorites. Well, I'm lonesome, but I'm happy. I'm rich, but I'm broke. And the good Lord knows the reason I'm just a cowpoke. From Cheyenne down to Douglas, all the ranges I know, 'cause I drift with that wind. No one cares where I go. Lord, I ain't got a dime in these old wore-out jeans, so I'll stop eating steak and I'll go back to beans. But I'll pick up a 10 spot in Prescott, I know, just to rope in some calves in the big rodeo. Some evening in springtime, Philly I'll find, and I might spend all summer with her on my mind. But I'll never be branded, I'll never be broke, 'cause I'm a carefree range riding, a drifting cowpoke. Thanks a lot. How's our time here? Let's see. What do we get out of that? It's not exactly good stage presence to look at the watch, but that's okay. Let's do one more. It's really great to be here. It's fun to be a part of this whole affair, and I know my uncle would have really enjoyed this. Those cigarettes got him, though. I told you about it. After his success, he moved down to L.A. and they, did real well. Kept writing songs, did a little bit of acting and stuff, and he got pretty sick in 61, 62, and died in 63. He was only 49. But he lived a good full life, that's for sure. He did, gosh, a whole lot of things in his young life. I had an opportunity to hang with him a little bit. Unfortunately, I was only 12 when he died, so I didn't get a chance to play any music with him, but I had a couple of good times with him. There's a couple things in the book that you'll read about, but one of my early great memories of, he used to be on a TV show called The Sheriff of Cochise, and so he had a pistol. So I was over at his house one time. He loaded it up with blanks and let me shoot his pistol into the fireplace, which was pretty exciting. It was pretty exciting for all the people that were in the kitchen and had no idea what was going on. Came running out. What the? But Stan, he thought it was great fun. Now, after he wrote Ghost Riders, this is a song that, I don't know, might have seemed like a follow-up, to that, because it kind of has the same sort of themes and kind of eloping little thing to it. But I've always liked it. It's called Rolling Dust. They ride along those fading trails from long, long ago. Sparks of hoofbeats glitter in the shadows as they go. Out along the backland where the dust has laid so long, you see them loping through the night and hear their riding song. Ooh, ooh, rolling dust. Ooh, rolling dust. Now those years are long and many since they rode down into town. It's now just weeds and wormy boards and shacks all tumbled down, where once they stood up to the bar and pretty girls discussed. You'll now hear ghostly laughter through a veil of heavy dust. Ooh. Rolling dust. Rolling dust. Now their hats and boots and saddles, they are all moldy as they ride. Their faces grim and silent, 'cause for them all time has died. Out there through the night wind, they lope on through the dust, while guns are swinging at their sides have crumbled into rust. Ooh, ooh, rolling dust. Ooh, rolling dust. Now cloudy sky. Their fame will live forever and their ghosts will never die. Plunging through the night wind they ride because they must. Way down in some lonely grave they've long since turned to dust. Ooh, ooh, rolling dust. Rolling dust, 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 rolling dust.
Thank you very much.